Frenzy Podcast.
This is the Nerd Frenzy Podcast.
And this is Nicholas Long, your lover, and my oh so sexy brother, Mr. Brent Parker. How's it going, buddy?
It is going super great. I liked that entire intro. I like that yellow shirt. This is the first time I get to see you real quick, so I'm a big fan of that yellow. What is? Oh, is that the? Is that Nega Flash or whatever it is?
Reverse Flash, yes sir.
Yeah, Reverse Flash.
Anti-Flash.
I got there. Okay.
No, I figured for the thing, I figured it might as well use something that's actually not in the movie at all, but yeah, it's connected though.
No, it's AC/DC.
Oh, you can never mess up with AC/DC though, and regardless.
I mean, true, it's fantastic, but you can't. I couldn't. It's not nearly as topical as yours is. I fucking goofed. I goofed it. That's it.
And you probably have like what, 15 Batman shirts too? I
have a ton of them. One of my favorite workout shirts is a Batman shirt. So
go get it on. I mean, I'll just talk to the audience right now.
I can't actually. Twitch will call you and yell at you because I show too much skin.
But it's skin we want to see though.
It's just my nipples out, to be honest, and I don't think anybody else wants to see it but you.
Your translucent nipple, yeah.
Yeah, I'm basically albino, and I'm like, it's not great. It's all vascular.
It's like Medusa, but you have to see the face. Yeah. You see the nipples.
It causes the same effect. Same thing.
Oh, you poor unfortunate soul. Okay, so buddy, I've been excited to talk to you about this because, as you know, 2017's Justice League was awful. When I watched it, first of all, I wasn't a big fan of Superman versus Batman, but the unrated version was way better. But then, so I think that's what everyone was expecting with this movie, that it was actually going to just add more to it, but it completely changes everything. We're talking about the Zack Snyder cut, of course.
I gotta eat crow. I told you this earlier. I have to eat a shitload of crow because this was a completely different film, in my opinion. I mean, what we got, and I think we need to take a step back just a little bit and express this. Snyder had to leave the project, okay, and we all know he had family things going on. We don't need to dwell on that with his entire that tragedy that happened, and he had to step away from the project. And as such, other people stepped in to take over. Several, influential people from the comic book area, particularly in film at that time, especially considering Mr. Whedon stepped up a bit.
Yes,
and I think what we need to say at first is yes, the Justice League we got originally in 2017 was not the best film. It definitely felt a little discordant collectively across the board. Watching the film, it felt uncollected. It didn't feel like it all made sense, and it had a very sudden, campy, bouncy, kind of fun attitude. Very Avengers. I mean, I'll say it. I think that's fair to say. It was a very Avengers film.
Without the buildup of the Avengers setup.
Yep, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that per se. Mm-hmm. And I want to dive into that a little bit because I think what we were offered, and I think it worked for what we were given, right? For the amount of time they had to produce an in-theater film, you're going to go for like 2 hours max. Mm-hmm. You're not going to go much longer than that. So they had to. I think they did a great job establishing what they had for Flash, for Cyborg, and they've already kind of established the background of Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. It's all kind of there a little bit. Basically, two characters needed a little extra love. Now, I said...
What two characters are you talking about? Which one?
Oh, Cyborg and Flash.
I was going to say, and Cyborg especially, because I can't tell you anything impressive about anything going on with the 2017 version. With this new version, he might have been the best character.
He may have been the most impactful.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think getting to see... And so I think we should work through this real quick. So I think we collectively agree 2017 was a subpar super film, but I think everybody should take a little step back, myself included, and say, okay, for what we were given, what was produced, and what was utilized at the time for a 2-hour film, I think they did the best they could. And that's not an excuse to allow the film to be subpar. It just simply was what we got at the time. We sit down and this should be noted, Snyder cuts 4 hours. So very, very, very few films are 4 hours long, and very, very few films are good enough to watch for 4 hours. I think that should be annotated.
Lord of the Rings extended versions are close to 4 hours long each, and they're worthy of it. But for the most part, nothing else is.
But let's also talk about the fact that Lord of the Rings was good of its own volition.
Yes.
If we're going to hold up the candle, we have to say, comparatively, what do we consider good? And the basic is Lord of the Rings were good outside of the extended cut. We didn't need the extended cut to flesh that out.
Right.
Now, when Snyder's extended cut hits and you watch through it, it gives us the Avengers treatment and the backstory treatment of Flash and Cyborg. It's damn near a Flash and Cyborg film. Like, to be honest, they spend a lot of time with those two particular characters. Each one gets very special and unique scenes that we never got before that help us understand their characters. Particularly, one of my favorite scenes, and I'll do this real quick. Spoilers. We're going to talk about stuff in the film. If you haven't sat down for 4 hours to watch it, heads up, that's what's happening. And I really want to get your take on this because I think you have a much better directorial eye than I do. But I thought this was fascinating. The scene where we learn about kind of Flash's personality of why he's a hero, where he is going to work at the shelter or the pet store to walk the dogs. Mm-hmm. When he arrives there and there is an accident that ends up happening and he reacts, first off, the detail of him blowing his shoes to pieces was one of the coolest things I've seen in cinema in so long. Because, I always think about, I never think about the physics,
the real physics of obviously unless they were the new Jordans, nothing can withstand that kind of heat that so quickly.
And the sudden burst, right? Like the amount of pressure and heat and force, and
right.
I think it's something so special to Snyder. I think he does a lot of slow-mo stuff, and he particularly does slow-mo stuff to remind us of what we're seeing. That was a very special scene because we kind of got to see how Flash thinks a little bit. We got to see how his powers work. And we also got to see just kind of like the silly, fun, goofy guy he is. Comparatively to the previous, we knew Flash was a little bit of comic relief, but there was no flesh to that character.
Which is funny because the Flash actually is, theoretically, the person who changes the most with the Justice League in the first place. He's with Flashpoint, too. Like, it's something, too, I would love to see them possibly go with maybe... if they do a Justice League 2, which I've heard that it might not be a thing anymore, which of course people are pissed. But if there is more and they do some kind of Flashpoint, which it sounds like they're doing Flashpoint, right? That's a thing.
Yeah, the Flash film is supposed to be Flashpoint.
Okay, good. Yep. And that could cause Batman to have been killed, like Bruce Wayne had been killed, and then Martha as well, and then the dad, Thomas Wayne, ends up being like a much more Punisher-like.
Oh yeah, he shoots
Batman. Yeah, he has a shotgun. He blows people away, and he's angry. He's not like he wasn't disciplined like Bruce Wayne was.
No, he's drunk and furious, and he's shooting people. And I think that's a big. This film has really set my expectation in the hope that there's going to be more.
Yes,
I think seeing more of Cyborg, even though he's not one of my favorite characters, the fact that
watching
him
not at all
through this film made me curious about seeing more of a Cyborg film because I think the struggle of his, like, the idea of what is human to a certain degree, or like, that he's not a broken monster, he's just different. And I think that's a really great struggle. And I think with this cut, we get to see him get through that. While comparatively in the first one, again, it is really disappointing. This is so good. It hurts to kind of look at Justice League again.
Yes, that's why it's hard. That's why earlier I was telling you, like, dude, it sucks because this is, when you compare them, they are, like you said before we were even talking live, they are different movies. I mean, they are different movies, and the whole context has changed. Yes, the start, the middle, and the end are kind of the same, like the whole goal is, but the adventure to get there, the struggle was just as real as it would feel in any dramatic, elongated movie that kind of makes you like feel stomachache, like, guys, hurry. But one thing I want to talk to you about, Brent, too, which I think it's also, besides Cyborg's thing, is the villain's upgrade times 10.
Dude, at first I saw that and I didn't like how he looked at all.
Mm-hmm.
And now as I look at him, I love it. But I gotta tell you, Darkseid, thank God. Darkseid he is the Thanos of that universe. And he's so cool and scary and mean and just. I was desperate to see him originally when I watched the very first one. I was like, cool, there's got to be some Darkseid stuff tucked in here. There's got to be. And when there wasn't, what a disappointment. Mm-hmm. This gives us the perfect taste of Darkseid. It replaces, what I really loved is it's not Steppenwolf during the first big encounter when they're recounting history and Darkseid's arrival and stuff. No. It's Darkseid actually there. Darkseid is on Earth.
Yeah, Steppenwolf's the Darth Vader to the Emperor Palpatine is what you find out.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
And I liked seeing both a fleshed out Darkseid because he's so scary, and then I like seeing a little bit of history and watching people fight Darkseid because Darkseid's fucking cool.
Which was like Zeus and stuff. It was Zeus fighting him. He's throwing his thunderbolts. Mm-hmm. And I, by the way, the actor who played Zeus is just. I was thinking like he looked fake, and then I found out he's a real dude. He looks just like that.
He's a yoked cat. This
is
huge.
Yeah, he was huge. But it was a very much 300 The Watchmen.
Oh, for sure.
Very Zack Snyder-y, which is, I will never complain about that aesthetic. Because first of all, Zack Snyder to me is the only person who is bringing that Frank Miller feel, like the actual comic book. Like you see the atmosphere in the background, it's very comic booky, and that's exactly what we want. He's a James Cameron, but not the Michael Bay. He's the Michael Bay with substance, and he's up there in so many ways with James Cameron. Just, I guess, longevity. But yeah, big fan.
Yeah, he brings a very special eye, and I mean it's Snyder. He brings grit, right? That's what he does. He brings grit to everything he kind of touches, as far as his comic book films and stuff like that. And then that's fine. I really like the difference between the. This is how I've always said it. Mr. Whedon and the Wachowski's brothers, they bring comic books to life as comic books. You know, they do. They make it so if I were to go pick up a 2015 Captain America off the shelf and read through it, I'm going to see a lot of similarities in their directing and the style and the panels to what they do film-wise, and that's fantastic. Snyder takes what I always call like the graphic novel approach. Blood, violence, grit, and sand, and it feels rough and raw and uncut. And he does great for that. And I think he's very good where he is. And I think Justice League really, really did need that to feel unified. After watching this, I watched actually Man of Steel again this week. And I want to watch Batman vs Superman again. Not for any particular
do the unrated version, by the way.
Oh yeah, for sure. I want to get the best vibe I can get with it. And I think collectively these things now really do finally feel, gathered and unified a bit. And it really is surprising the difference.
Yes.
It sucks to a certain degree. Again, it takes a 4-hour cut to make it do that. But at the same time, God, I'm really glad I sat down for 4 hours and watched it. I really am, because I didn't like the actor who did Flash originally. I didn't like Cyborg, because I was like, you guys are kind of pointless. I don't get this. I don't know what's going on.
Yes, no disrespect to the actors, but they got no love, and it made their characters very one-dimensional. Absolutely.
Yep. And then we sit down and I watch him build that relationship with Cyborg a bit. I watched how important it is that Cyborg and Flash consistently work together, because they do something fascinating every time they work together. As far as, I admit, it's a bit of a tired treadmill they run on. Flash runs up, touches him, sends a charge through something. But at the same time, like, they're unified. The way they mesh with what they can do really helps build them together as people. And watching the extended scene of them robbing, or I should say taking Superman out of the grave, seeing how, like, Aquaman has a little bit of caring when Cyborg distances himself from the group and deals with his father's death. These things really made that film good.
Yes, they were cohesive. They were brothers and sisters in arms, instead of just, hey, I'll come here and then you come here a moment and then we'll all come here and then it'll be that. No, there was a journey. Steppenwolf was scary. He was very scary. He wasn't first of all, they changed his face. He didn't have that weird Jack and the Beanstalk giant look anymore. He was more of this intimidating brute. And then when you see Darkseid, because he had the glowing eyes and everything, and like you said a minute ago, it reminded me of Thanos. I mean, because only Thanos and like Magneto, but these characters have a reason for what they're doing. They have a conscience. They're not evil in their mind. What they're doing is for the good of mankind. And these are the most interesting villains. They always will be. And luckily, Darkseid was kind of, you could tell they were trying to model that ideology off of Thanos's too. So he had the whole, like, he was just kind of stand there and just like very militant, very, I don't know, just waiting.
He was threatening. He was threatening in passing, and I think part of that is our history of knowing that Darkseid is, again, the big bad. At the same time, I mean, whatever he is a conqueror. We know that too. We know he is a conqueror. We know he has legions upon legions. He is the end of worlds. He's going to show up and he's just going to give you the fucking hands. And I think that's, I want to know more about him, and because I feel a little bad when I make consistently comparison. I think it's a fair comparison cinematically to say, hey, by the way, Darkseid is their Thanos. Now, a lot of people might yell at us about that and stuff, because I don't know who came first. I don't know the history and all that stuff.
Well, I think DC came in out in the late 30s, so I'd imagine they probably had Darkseid before we had.
I would assume.
Yeah, and we came out, and then Marvel came out in the 60s. It probably was DC. At least they were the Star Trek, and then the Marvel was the Star Wars. So.
Yeah, and I think it's just important. What I'm trying to indicate here is that I don't really know a lot of Thanos' motivation besides this anti-life thing, which is exciting to me, like whatever that is. And again, that's another thing. Steppenwolf conquering the planet for Thanos was more than a fine backdrop. If we look back, that was fine, not a problem. Seeing why Thanos was so invested in this world now because of this anti-life thing makes me happy, because now it gives me a reason to continue this story. the original Justice League did not leave me feeling anywhere like I was going to see another Justice League. It didn't even
Or maybe want to see
spark,
one.
oh yeah, or even want to really. Like it didn't spark much interest in Flash. It didn't spark interest in Cyborg. It didn't spark interest in more Batman, Wonder. It didn't do any of that for me. Anything I wanted to see from those characters was strictly based off of anything I'd seen before. I.e., Wonder Woman was a fantastic film. We don't have to get to 1984.
Yeah.
But the fact that Wonder Woman, the first one, was so good, I was excited to see 1984 at the time. So
Sure, all of us were.
we
I was
we
born
go
in
back.
'84. I really wanted to see that whole '80s aesthetic mixed in with a good quality movie, but sadly, we only got a mild '80s aesthetic and then nothing else.
We got a movie that was just such a mess, and we have to chew on that one time because it's there's so much to dissect there. But with this film, the other thing I really, I mean, I just enjoyed so much is everything behind them. One of the best scenes early on in that film gave me straight up goosebumps because it was so good. Is when Steppenwolf stands in and all the Amazonians are fighting him,
Oh,
and he's
yes.
like, "We will feast on your fear."
Yes.
And she's like, "Show 'em your fear." When they're like, "We have no fear."
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
my
she
God,
goes,
my
"Show them
heart.
your fear." Like, okay, we have no fear. They were trained for this moment. They do. Don't get me wrong. They do get their asses kicked, but gosh, they're just so badass in the process. And then you don't see them even running away. All you see is this badass sisterhood. Are like, oh, let me jump in front of that to dodge it, so then this person doesn't get killed. And this whole island of just badass women that just are in these empowering badass women who just, like, oh no, we're just awesome. I love it. I love that whole thing.
They were powerful, unafraid, trained from birth to be warriors. They were if you have a daughter and you just want to show them like women are strong and powerful in media in any way, I mean, the Amazonians are easily a top marker of that. You can't go beyond it. They're bonded together. They live, breathe, and fight and die by the sword together. And to see them, Crystal, I thought was really, really cool when she was talking about it because I didn't even look at it this way. When she mentioned that thing, like they were trained for this. This was their moment. They lived and breathed to be these guardians. These ones, within the chamber here, that they're good with it. Whatever's happening, they're fine with. And what she said was that I thought was so fascinating was that they had no problem dying to seal that. It wasn't even a question. When it came up, it wasn't like none of them stopped fighting. None of them, and you expect that. But at the same time, it is such like a heart-wrenching, but also like this crazy empowering moment where they scream that they have no fear and they just throw themselves into fight over and over.
It's like a Rocky
over.
moment when you just want to go running after you watch that. Yeah.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
they take the whole thing down, they collapse it, and the consequences. Anybody in there still fighting dies. There's not an option. They're dead. No one blinks, no one bats an eye. Obviously, the queen does because, those are her subjects. They're her people beyond that. It's important. But every one of them is like, no, get out of here. This is our job. We've got this.
It's
We're
their
sorry.
honor. I mean, it's their discipline.
honor,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And I think that we've learned enough about the Amazonians and everything that we've had really good examples of what their culture is through Wonder Woman. I think we've had great moments of that. I think even in Batman vs. Superman, we have great moments to kind of look at that and see it. This is a particular shining, excellent demonstration or portrayal of them. And I mean, we got to see it in the original, the fight between Steppenwolf and when they seal the chamber and everything. That's one thing. But relatively, I am a little surprised by how awesome that one moment, that one unified chant that they do turns that scene completely different for me. You can watch both of those back to back and be like, okay, they seal the chamber and they all die and we're all good with that. But the moment of the chant adds so much life to that, so much value to that scene that I just, oh man.
And I would say also, brother, that Steppenwolf throughout this whole movie was way more intimidating and scary at times. And that whole scene when you're watching it all unfold, even though you're right, when these women are just sitting there like, oh no, we have no fear. But as the audience member, I have fear because Steppenwolf's a scary dude. He's not just this big old like what the words he's saying and everything he's trying to achieve, and the way he kind of has these like sly looks at like when he looks at Wonder Woman, he's like, oh, an Amazonian, but with the god's powers. And it was just very interesting how they were kind of like, he was kind of treating her like, ooh, interesting, this will be fun. And the first attempt of Justice League, like most of the villains, including sadly the very first Wonder Woman 2, the villains were very weak. And And Steppenwolf himself was an excellent upgrade. And then Darkseid, even though he wasn't in the movie much, just stand there in the background being menacing. And then you see that one part when he's fighting the gods, and you see that part whenever he shoots his little laser thing and starts going at it and just kills all the Atlanteans. Thank you. He's scary. So
he had a great addition of fanaticism to him. That's what really helped. We knew he was a fanatic for Darkseid to a certain degree before. In the previous one, we know he's trying to.
He's talking about Mama a lot and he's like, oh, for Mama.
He's always talking about mother.
Yeah,
mother,
it was really
mother.
weird. I was like, okay, cool, man.
Yeah, and it's like, I get that. I understand exactly what they were going for when they were going that route. But what I appreciate more is, fanatics are always a fascinating villain, especially a fanatic who's just hell-bent on the only purpose they live and to have is to serve whoever they're attached to. And Steppenwolf finally gets that upgrade here, where the fanaticism is not only to reclaim himself in Darkseid, but it's for Darkseid. Everything is to give Darkseid what he wants. Everything. This is for Darkseid, the planet that defied you.
Like he's God.
He is the God, to him. And I think that adds such a good layer to him. And I think what's also nice is it adds a perfect level of intensity. We could have seen, a tacky writer or just a basic writer take Steppenwolf. A perfect example is when after they fight Superman and Steppenwolf comes from the mother box, the third and final box. When he shows up, we could have seen him swing his axe like a monkey, murder a bunch of innocent people and stuff. And haha, he's a bad man. There he is. He's a bad guy. This dude's a bad dude because he's doing that. But what I really appreciate about it is the single-mindedness of it. When he shows up, he just looks at them, understands the box was nearby, and hunts it down by smell. He spends no extra time being evil, cruel, or wicked. And that intensity is fascinating because when he gets to the lab and he starts chasing Cyborg's father, he has one purpose, and it's to smash, destroy, and get to that box. That's it. And once the boxes begin to communicate and he's bringing Darkseid over, the joy he has and the way he fights with he is so fervent. He is so dedicated to the fight to ensure that it live or die, he doesn't care as long as the unity finishes and brings Darkseid. And the moment he does, previous to the one moment, when he says for Darkseid, goosebumps.
I know.
So good. It's the one mention in the film for Darkseid, but it's such an iconic thing, I think, within the comics that you had to use it well and at the right time. You couldn't overdo it. You couldn't just use it in.
It's a corny quote that you could hear in the '60s, but luckily, as if it's implanted perfectly in a sophisticated kind of manner, it could be deadly. And it was. You're right. For Darkseid. Yeah, it was great.
For Darkseid. And he just turns on Cyborg, and the fight begins even more ferocious and even more in earnest. And I loved that. I love that of Steppenwolf. I want a villain that does that. That scares me a little bit. That gives me that nervous tingle. And I just wanted to ask you about the only part I found disjointed about this film. And I think it's just extra. I think it was tucked in here for us for extra just because they had the shot and they wanted to use it. They wanted to get everything out. There is the scene after everything's cleared up where we get a post-apocalypse kind of grouping of people together. And we get a special scene between Batman and Jared Leto, Joker.
Yes.
What did you think?
Obviously, I'm guessing you didn't care for it?
No, I'm not saying that. I just want to hear your thoughts. I don't want to taint anything. I want to hear your thoughts.
Tainted love.
Whoa. Right, I'm with you. I'm there.
Okay, well, first of all, I think that whole thing was the dream sequence that was implying Darkseid's vision was going to come true, and he was going to kill Wonder Woman and who was the other one? Aquaman, and then Superman was going to be evil, and Joker and Deathstroke was going to have to team up with Batman. And that part this part gave me goosebumps. That part when Joker's just talking shit to Batman, and then Batman looks right at him. And this was the only scene that Zack Snyder added in that was not part of the original thing he wanted to do. It's whenever he goes, "I'm still gonna fucking kill you." And
he says, and make no mistake, I will.
yeah. And an F-bomb in a superhero movie is sometimes weird to hear unless it's implemented in that kind of way where it's just like, hey,
It has to make sense.
Yes, absolutely. And the way I killed Robin. He goes, yes, he's probably just a little mad because he lost someone kind of
He knows
adopted
exactly
too.
what it's like.
Yeah. I felt also that Jared Leto's version was a little bit more subdued and a little bit more realistic to take in and not so like, it was a little bit more like, and I loved his little more like chill approach about it.
And I mean, it just felt the scene itself felt a little out of place. It didn't feel like it fit collectively. I didn't know if we were seeing the dream world because it felt out of sequence, or if we were seeing the future or my assumption is with that all that is leading us to is the Flashpoint anomaly. That's what that points to is my
the Ultron thing. That's what they're doing too. They're trying
Kinda.
to yes, the Ultron. When it shows Iron Man is dead and he's looking around, a lot of his people are fallen. I think that was the implication they're trying to. In small little manners, which is fine. I've noticed that they keep on taking from each other.
I think that's okay. I just think
Well, competing always makes the best product. So.
Oh, I agree, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think
Right.
I think just because we consider and chew on what that scene was, that only reinforces the idea that I think it was there as a treat for all of us. I don't necessarily think it was like Snyder sat down and said, "Okay, cool, and by the way, because this makes sense to the story, we need to add this in here." I think collectively, it was one of those extra bits that was around it was those extra bits that he added for us because we knew the Joker was supposed to be in here. We see it in the trailer. We're offered this kind of little nod to him in the trailer and everything. I think I've always said this about Jared Leto's Joker. Jared Leto's Joker has moments of brilliance, but they're very brief. This had those again, and it's one of those things where I'm so hooked on seeing more of Jared Leto's Joker to see him shine, to see him really get his due and actually shine, because I think, to preface this, in Suicide Squad, there's a great moment where that guard is gambling everywhere, and they take him back into the kitchen area, and he's sitting there, and the guy's talking, and when Joker comes in, he says, "All that chit-chat's gonna get ya hurt." The way he delivers that, the way he says it gives me tingles.
I like the way you delivered it, by the way.
Thank you. There is a threat there. There is the perfect underlying tone of menace and playfulness at the same time that makes me stop and all of a sudden look at this dude who just entered the room. I'm like, whoa, there's something not right about this individual. Particularly in this scene now, when we come back and we get to see a little bit more of what Jared Leto does here, what I enjoy about it is he pulls the card and it gets this. The whole camera is unfocused at this point. You can barely see what the fuck is happening in that particular moment as he's holding this Joker card up and he's reaching it out to Batman and he's mentioning the truth. So long as you have this card. The final point where we actually get to see a little playoff, because I think we're desperate. I am always desperate to see Batman and Joker have that budding. I always want to see the unstoppable force.
The tension is just too much, and we want more. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I want it. I want that. And when Batman leans in and he does that line, and make no mistake, I will fucking kill you. And he finally gets under Joker's skin a little bit. I thought between those two characters, we really do have something special. I think we really have something we can explore, and it really does bum me out because I don't think we're going to get it. I don't think we're ever going to get it.
Well, it sounds like they're not going to. Yeah, it sounds like they have a different plan for this whole thing.
And that is, I think, such a loss. And again, I don't want this to take away that I'm naysaying DC or Snyder or anyone. The circumstances surrounding the entire film, it was very unfortunate, and it's really, really it's great to see this man return to what his craft is, but I can only imagine the devastation that even to return to this after all that, you can't put your shoes in it. It is just wonderful to see we at least got a taste that we can all now sit back. And I still think, I think you can make the argument that Jared Leto's Joker has possibility. I wish it was more directed, and I wish he had a better hand at it. I wish Snyder could be there for each of the films he's going to be in or was in, because I would have loved to see Snyder's take in directing Jared Leto's Joker to the right tone. And that is the only part of the film that makes me sad, is he wanders back and forth in this weird area where Joker only hits a few lines throughout this whole thing where he really hits a special point of his delivery, where it feels like the Joker The rest just feels like someone's sad attempt to make a weird character weird, and that is so disappointing for me because there is something special tucked away in there.
In the Suicide Squad version of Jared Leto, I think the reason why it didn't work is he was trying to accomplish something by completely changing what Heath Ledger did, and I felt like his performance was a little pretentious. It's like
Yeah,
I was
totally.
getting the whole Jared
Totally.
Leto like, oh, I'm from 30 Seconds to Mars, and I'm this
I'm an
wonderful,
artist.
yeah,
I'm gonna go
I'm an
for it.
artist. And Suicide Squad
What
don't
the fuck has happened?
Suicide Squad possibly now James Gunn is pretty much, I think he's done with it, but there could be a Suicide Squad that actually is somewhat connected with this too. Who knows? Because that hasn't even happened
Well,
yet.
the new one's coming out.
Yeah, that's what I'm
The new
saying.
one's coming out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it could possibly be that one that came out 10 years before, where it's like introducing Darkseid about ready to, I don't know. I'm not, all I know is James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy is phenomenal, and I'm hoping that Suicide Squad is better because the first one was garbage for the most part.
Yeah, I agree. I think to wrap this up, I think it's important that I think annotating, if you're a fan of comic book films and you really thought Justice League just didn't have exactly what you wanted, it just didn't have what it needed, the Snyder Cut delivers. It delivers on all cylinders. It fires off. And yes, it's 4 hours, ladies and gentlemen. You're right. It's 4 hours. But
It's
I
worth
guarantee you
it.
it is
It
4
is
hours that
worth
is
it.
worth consuming collectively. I think Justice League is a great culmination of his efforts, of his vision, and it really finally does bring that together where I feel like I'm interested in the Justice League and I care, which I never thought I'd say that about a DC film except Wonder Woman and Man of Steel. That's how I feel. What do you think?
The new 2021 version, it allowed every single superhero to have their special moments, which allowed whenever they all got together, it actually like you had a stomachache the whole time. You're like, come on guys, come on, we need you guys to get together. The first one, it was like this happy campy like, hey, you're gonna be a part of our gang. This one was more like, hey guys, this is about saving the world. I mean, we need you. And when they finally all got together, and then you see all this extra time of them just being a team and dealing with the goods and bads, and then you see that their cohesiveness. I love that, and I think their biggest strength was Steppenwolf, and I felt, funny enough, the biggest weakness of the first one in terms of superheroes became the biggest strength in this one. Cyborg became kind of the narrator in some degree of this whole movie, and he became almost like we were watching this whole thing through his eyes. And Ray Fisher, I never even knew who the guy was underneath it in the 2017 version because there was nothing to care for. And this whole movie made me think, oh my, I gotta look up this actor and see what else he's doing. I mean, it's crazy. This whole thing, you didn't polish a turd, you remade it. I mean, I'm very happy with this. The first one I would give like a 6 out of 10. This one I'm gonna give a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, I would agree. Ezra Miller and Ray Fisher are both actors. I think now that it's worth investing in for sure. And I want to see Flashpoint. I want to see more of Ezra Miller's Flash because from a character that I was like, okay, he's around just to be around. I don't give a shit. Literally, I don't care. To all of a sudden now I'm like, I like Flash.
Yeah, let's make that movie. Let's make that movie.
He's nice. And let's get to it. I was telling Crystal one of my favorite things was I remember watching in the trailer for the original one where like one of the creatures, one of the Doom, Terror, whatever they are, gets sent through a door. And I was so excited to see how that happened. It's a very quick cut in the original trailer where like one of them just like flies through a door and slams into a wall and just die. And I'm like, dude, that's cool. I wonder like who does that because it's got to be something cool to it. I really enjoyed this where it was during the rescue sequence where Flash is running around and he stops and he does that thing like he does to Superman, where he like pushes against him. I was a huge fan without any explanation where he like stops and he goes, boop, and then real time kind of comes in and that bug just whap, and he just slams into that wall. And I was like, that's just cool. Shit, that
I loved it.
cool. Like we should do more of that. So yeah, I think 9 out of 10. Sit down, take the 4 hours, like you said, go from a 6 to just basically become a brand new film, become something new and absolutely just wonderful. And a real love letter to DC, I think, and especially the Justice League. This is. Did you freak out when Martian Manhunter showed up the first time?
Oh, of course. And I knew exactly what was happening. I guess a lot of people didn't pick that up, and I've been
dumb.
And of course I saw that the Easter eggs to. By the way, there's one with Kilrog. Whenever it shows him dead at the dream sequence, but before it showed the other Green Lantern and everyone, and I thought, well, you guys, this is so awesome, and why wouldn't it be showing this? Because Green Lanterns are everywhere. There's like millions of them, so why wouldn't they be everywhere? And the actor who plays him, he has that very similar look that he did in the cartoon and whatnot. there were so many Easter eggs, so many good things that connected this with everything else in the DC universe, and pretty much has been doing what Marvel's been doing so successfully, and adding things that make you go, oh, there's some repeat things going on with this. I better watch this again, and I want to show my wife. So I'm bye.
Yeah, exactly. I want to show my dad. I want to sit down with my dad and watch the whole thing and just see how he feels, because he's such a film fanatic, and I think this is a real great experience to have with him, and just to watch him be like,
perfect.
What do you think? Remember the old one? It was shit. This is amazing. Am I
yeah.
right? 4 hours, but it's amazing. So
Yes, sir. Okay, guys. Well, please send me any comments at the Nerd Frenzy Podcast at gmail.com, or just write on our YouTube channel. And we're just going to keep on putting some fun stuff out for you guys, and we hope you guys keep on enjoying this. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, guys. Well, Brent, as usual, I love you, buddy. It's good talking to you, and we'll talk again very soon, my friend.
As always, Nick, a pleasure. Thank you for letting me hang out with you and do this. I appreciate it so very, very much. You guys are great. Thanks for hanging out with us, and probably go watch Snyder Cut. Shit's great. A+ work.
Take care, guys.
Bye, guys.
The Nerd Frenzy Podcast.